Welcome back to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people where I talk about critical issues in the blindness community. My name is Aaron Richmond. Welcome back. By the way, before we get going, this episode is, of course, copywritten by me, Aaron Richmond, and Aaron's Opinion. Thank you. This podcast can be heard everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and many places around the world. So don't forget to check us out wherever you get your podcast. And if you have any questions, you should also reach out to me via YouTube. You can send, you guys can comment below. You can respond on Twitter. You could even send my page on Facebook a message. You could even follow me on Patreon, or you could even send me an email to aaronsopinion6@gmail.com. All right. Well, I'm really pleased with the results that we've been having over the past year in podcasting. Really, really honored and really pleased. And we are finally getting our first Dutch guest. This is someone who I've come across in the Facebook community. We are joined by someone by the name of Rong-rong. And you are conducting, well, for one thing, you're a university student who is conducting research how blind people learn voiceover and talkback software. Now, this is a really important topic in the blindness community. My first question to you is, are you blind or sighted? That would be the first question.
I am sighted myself, but yeah, like the blindness topic, I'm a little bit familiar with it because when I was, really small, in just 3 or 4 years, my eyesight went not entirely bad. So I'm not visually impaired, but it went bad quite quickly. And then doctors were talking about visual impairment or blindness to me. So in that way, I've always been interested in this topic because of
Okay.
that.
So I think you are visually impaired.
No, I'm not.
Okay. So maybe have the doctors restored your vision to a stable point?
I'm like I have 20/20 vision with glasses on, so that
So they
is
have corrected your vision. 2020 corrected with glasses. Right. Okay. Um, well, that's very interesting. So, for one thing, what are you studying right now in university?
I'm studying industrial design, which it sounds like a design study. It is partly about designing a product, system, or service, but it also teaches you a lot about coding, mathematics, how to 3D print, how to use NX or AutoCAD to create a design that is functionally usable.
Excellent. Let me just ask you right here. Are you familiar with a company, or really it's a platform called Indiegogo?
No, I am not.
Really? Really? You are
I,
not?
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Um, so next question, I'll circle back to it in a second. Next question, would you consider yourself the type of engineer who wants to get into business, the business world, and actually invent a product to change people's lives?
Um,
Do,
I
do you
would
want do you want to be an inventor and invent something to change people's lives?
I would like to, take part of inventing something to change people's lives.
Okay.
But, but um, I do not think it is necessary for me to found an entirely new company or whatnot. I think it is important to at least join a company or cooperate with other people to create a product. So it's not just one person that is inventing something. There are always multiple people, yeah, connected to it.
You are right. You are right. Indiegogo, in summary, is a platform where inventors and business owners can it's basically a company where you come up to them and you say, I want to invent, ABC. And then they say, okay, we're going to set up a profile for you, and then you can tell people about your product and then get supporters. And it's a whole like professional system, and a legal system for presenting, promoting, and inventing and distributing a new product. I'm really glad you're here because I do have a specific thing that I'm going to send you in addition to this video. I'm going to send you another interview I did with someone who is blind, and he is working on an invention right now for some sort of a telephone. It's quite complicated, so I'll send you the information, but it's something that you should learn about and something you should, look into.
All right.
If it interests you, because it will show you the work that engineers are doing in the industry, and it's pretty cool to learn about it. So, all right, well, so I think if I were to ask you this. So, what are all of the questions that you want that you need to be answered? So now let's transition to your part of the interview, which is answering all of your questions. So if you want to take a moment and pull up, maybe if you have something written down, I'll take a sip of coffee, and then you can ask me all of your interview questions, and then we'll have them for you right here on this video.
All right, nice. I do have interview questions written up, so I
Okay,
will
go right ahead.
put them up.
All of them, top to bottom. Go right ahead.
Yes. So yeah, I have multiple questions, starting with very general questions. So it's first about, yeah, if you could tell me something about yourself, about what you do for work and what you use for work, what your vision is that you still have.
Okay, sure. So the answer is my name is Aaron Richmond. I'm an American guy living somewhere in the universe. My day job is I am a teacher, and I work online teaching English as a second language. I do speak French, by the way. French is my second language that I speak. Um, and I was born with glaucoma, and I have had 7 cornea transplants. Um, Now, the issue of visual acuity is what we call it in English, visual acuity. It's interesting. I don't really know. Um,
Yeah.
let me, and I want you to, it's extremely hard for me to express this in English.
Oh,
Um, but
don't worry about it.
no, it is fine. What I mean is it's a hard thing for me to explain, and it's critical that you
Oh,
understand this,
yes.
that it's very important that you understand that it is very difficult for blind people to express what they see, because I can't make a comparison. So if I were to
Ah,
tell you, I kind of see like a picture on my screen, I can see my hand, your face,
all
but
right.
would I be able to come up with details? Not really. I'm able to see
Uh,
colors, the room around me, outside, things like that. I tell people I see well enough to like get around. I have a Segway scooter, but I do not see well enough to drive a car or read a print book. That's how I describe it.
all
All
right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. So, do you use voiceover or talkback or
Yes.
intonation?
Yeah, yes, voiceover, because we're
All right.
using the Apple system right now.
Oh, aha. Yeah, that is very interesting because I've spoken to a lot of people who use voiceover. Is there a reason for you to choose VoiceOver over talkback.
Yes, yes. VoiceOver and Apple products are the most accessible products for blind people.
All right. Yeah, I've heard that before. And what is exactly the difference?
Well, VoiceOver is a software written and developed by Apple. TalkBack, I think, is something different. It might be from Android or one of the other companies.
All right. So, how did you learn VoiceOver? Did you just, I don't know, Google a
Yes,
tutorial?
I did a little, mostly the to answer your question, I learned by practicing, by needing to adapt to the change in software and needing to make that adaptation in my life. So that's how I learned. Um,
Right.
yeah, I noticed you were asking a lot about that. I think that a lot of these blind people who are able to use voiceover, most of us would probably, I can only speak for myself. So I learned by just doing. There are workshops that you can learn more about, and I encourage you to continue to post in the various groups that you've posted in. Um, but I'll tell you that a lot of blind people do not really. I think if they know voiceover, they already know it. If they don't, they use a different thing that they already know. But I think people reject the idea of an organized learning method for learning this software. So I
All
think
right.
that's important.
Yes, I do. I do see that the people I've spoken to, they either want to learn through a coach or they are just trying by themselves. And part of it, I think, is because the tutorials that are available currently are either inaccessible for a complete beginner, so they need someone to download it on the phone for them, or they are not entirely complete. So they only have a few of the steps, or yeah, or just only the basics.
Right.
Yeah. So I would like to ask you, what was it when you were just, how was it when you just were starting out to learn it? Do you still remember that?
I do. It was difficult, and I had to get used to using the Apple products. I had to get used to it for a couple of months just by, as we say, playing around with it and by just adjusting to the change in software. But it was an adjustment for sure. But every day and every year, Apple gets easier and easier and easier to use.
All
hmm
right. Is that was that daily practice or monthly practice?
It
I
was
have
a
no
day. It was a daily
daily
practice.
practice.
Sure, sure.
Wow. Okay. So
hmm
I've heard that other people, for example, they hire a coach and that coach sits next to them for a few hours or half a day, and they just continuously practice what they need to practice. But how did you tackle this? Did you just take your phone and
Yeah, by practicing, by needing to, but by the necessity, by necessity of
all
needing
right.
to make the changes. Yeah.
So did you just think of a goal like I want to call someone and just try to call someone?
I mean, I never thought of that
Uh,
because American people don't really like making calls.
all right, that makes a lot of sense. Like the people I've spoken to, of course, they are all Dutch, so that could be a cultural difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you just do that entirely by yourself? Wasn't there anyone who could offer you some kind of advice?
I mean, a little bit here. I would say a little bit from other blind people here and there scattered around, but mostly mostly just me.
Yeah, that seems very hard. There isn't anyone to just give very concrete advice then.
That's that's exactly the problem. There are plenty of people who are willing to give advice, but the advice they often give is sometimes not acceptable, not appropriate, um, unintentionally misinformed, things like
Uh,
that. Yeah.
All right. So that seems like a very large problem. So yeah, would you how would you solve that if you had any if you could solve it? How would you solve it?
Well, which problem do you want to solve? The problem of specifically, please rephrase the question.
Oh, the question is, how would you solve the problem that other people would give you different advice, or that it was hard to
Yeah, well,
get the
what
right advice?
happens a lot is those people who misinform and give bad advice. Those people are the types of people who are not necessarily interested in actually solving the problem that you want to solve.
Ah,
They have other motivations.
all
So
right.
those people kind of get, as we say in English, pushed aside, and then
Yeah.
oftentimes we're left to our own devices.
It seems very hard. From what I
It
noticed,
is.
from the people I've interviewed before, they always said that either someone they knew as a friend who was also blind could help them out, or that they had some kind of community of blind friends that they could ask for help. Is that something that is more common in Holland?
Yes, because Americans are extremely individualistic. The
Right.
other issue is that the way our country is set up, we live far apart. So we don't live in like communities together. I mean, some people do a little
Yeah.
bit, but it's not to the level of the way that you would expect to live in Europe, where you're expected to be kind and everybody just cooperates and lives together. People in America, kind of, everybody's doing their own thing. Hmm.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I have never thought about this before, but of course,
Okay.
if I would drive across Holland, I probably wouldn't even drive because why would you need a car when you can just take the train and then be on the other side of the country
Right.
within 2 hours?
Right. And
Yes.
I think a lot I think that's a very, very, very important point is that a lot of that there is a connection between industrial engineering and society and our culture and the way that we live. It certainly impacts people's lives for sure. Hmm.
Yeah. So, have you ever like tried to explain how to do some things on voiceover to someone else?
No.
No. Okay. So, never, I don't know, had a friend or someone who was curious that you tried to explain voiceover to?
I mean, if people are genuinely curious, if I try to explain, they usually would not really understand.
Ah,
Because another thing is it's very hard for blind people to express concepts of blindness and successful functioning to people who are not in the community. There's this whole culture, and you kind of picked up on it. There's this whole culture and this whole community, right? Even though
yeah.
I'm an American guy, we have very different culture. Um, but blind people globally have a lot in common. A lot of the same problem, a lot of the same challenges I'm finding from talking to blind people, from doing my YouTube and podcasting. I'm finding that life is quite similar now from country to country, where 30, 40 years ago, life was very different from country to country, and you would see a lot of differences. But now people are kind of living a universal global life, kind of. Hmm.
Yeah. So, have you ever tried, I don't know, have you ever tried out coaching or tried out consulting a coach, or is it just only tutorials and only trying by yourself?
Well, well, multifaceted answer. I perceive and I hope, and one of my dreams for Aaron's opinion, this show that you're on right now, is that this does become material that you can use or others can use to help their lives. So I kind of am coaching you right now just
True.
through the art form of podcasting, podcast YouTube journalism. Now, it's not really the same because we aren't making money doing this. I'm making an impact. I'm making a huge impact in your life, and you'll look back on it and you'll be like, wow, I didn't realize that was so useful when I was doing it, but this will be very, very useful. And as I said,
Yeah.
after I publish the YouTube video, I'll give you back the YouTube link, and then you can share it and use it and quote it and all that. Then it's
Yes.
yours to play around with. Um, but um, but no, I would say no, but this is kind of a loaded question. No, but there are other podcasts. Now I don't know the other podcasters who you should talk to. Um,
All right.
let's talk about it off air. Let's talk about it
Yeah.
off the recording. I
Of
generally do
course.
not name drop the. There are specific people that you need to
Yes.
reach out to, and I know who they are. So I'll tell you about those
All
later.
right.
But I would say in general, kind of not, but this is similar to coaching and education. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, of course you've learned voiceover by yourself. How would you recommend another person to learn it
By practicing.
by practicing?
And watching tutorials on YouTube. I don't know. If I was See, now YouTube is just amazing. I mean, you can literally
All
type in
right.
any question into YouTube
Yes.
and get it answered in like literally 2 seconds. You could type it in Dutch. And have you typed now? I mean, I don't speak Dutch, but have you typed in Dutch? How do I learn voiceover? Have you typed that into the YouTube algorithm?
Yes, I did. Also on Facebook or on Reddit, you get a lot of responses or a lot of discussions in
Yeah.
some cases.
Have you okay, so on YouTube when you typed it into Dutch, you probably pulled up other Dutch YouTubers or other Dutch speaking YouTubers. Did you reach out to them and say, "Hi, I watched your video and I need to interview you"? Did you have some interaction with them about that?
No, because I always thought like YouTube, people who are on YouTube, they are very, I don't know, famous or very, yeah. It
So
sounds very silly.
let me translate. What you mean is, actually, you can say, "I was too nervous to reach out to them because
Yes.
they're on YouTube." So don't be afraid. So if you want to reach out to a YouTuber, there is an appropriate way to do it. The appropriate way is two ways. One, if you go, and it would say it in Dutch, but in English, it's the button that says About. You scroll up here on
All
the
right.
top, how you have, videos, playlist, community, something, something, and then About. Okay. You push About. If you go to my About page on YouTube, you'll see that in there, I just put the Patreon link. But other people on other channels, they put other links. And
All
oftentimes they put their professional Facebook page, and when you see
right.
that, that's the appropriate way to contact them. So what I do is I hold up the phone, and as you heard, I send voice message. I say, "Hi, I'm so and so. I just watched your video.
All
I'm a
right.
university student. I'm researching A, B, and C. Would you consider speaking to me about the topics in your video, for me to benefit my research?"
Yes.
Usually podcasters and YouTubers, if you're kind and if you're reasonable, usually takes a few days, but they usually get back to you and often say yes. So I've gotten very few no's and mostly yeses. So I mean, you reached out to me, so you should
I
try
did.
reaching out a little bit more. I know it's a little awkward. You got to
Yeah.
practice. You got to practice, but don't be nervous because you're contacting them for a real reason, not to just bug them. But that is
True.
the
That's
appropriate way to
true.
reach out. If they leave a Twitter page or a Facebook private messaging system like that, that's the way they want to be contacted. Or
Yeah.
you can also comment below. I did that earlier. I was contacting a YouTuber about a totally different someone that I hope to interview, on Aaron's opinion. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you who it is because I doubt she'll get back to me.
All
But
right.
but
Yeah.
you guys should stay tuned. It would be cool if she came on. And I said, "Hey, I was watching your video. I agree with you. Do you want to come and guest on my podcast? Just put it in the comments. What do you have to lose?" Now, in her case, she didn't have a Facebook page, so the only way was to just message her like in the comments thing below. Oftentimes those comments get seen and not replied to, but sometimes they do get responses. Anyway, back to you. Go ahead.
Yes. Um, so you were talking about um, we were talking about how you would recommend someone else to to learn voiceover, and you were talking about practicing. But I was wondering how would someone practice?
By practicing. I don't know. By practicing.
How would, for example, I have minimal knowledge of using voiceover. I've read the gestures, I've tried it out, but I haven't really mastered it.
Right.
How would you explain it to me?
Well, I don't know. This is where it gets difficult because there's a lot of tapping and a lot of things that you just have to figure it out. You just have to trial and error and figure it out. Um,
Yeah. So would I keep the gestures on the side and just uh, try things out? And if I don't understand which gesture, I could, for example, look up in a PDF use certain how to do certain gestures.
Now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm seeing where you're coming from,
Yes.
where you're wanting and I mean, of course, it's no worries, my friend. As someone who speaks other languages, I totally get it. But we're brushing against kind of a language barrier here. The
All right.
question that we're digging at is, how does someone go about learning the voiceover software if they don't know how? That's what you need to
Yes.
know. And the answer
Sure.
is that in this society today, we would
All
probably
right.
go to YouTube and just type it in and just literally watch the first video that comes up in the listing.
All
Probably is how
right.
it would be done. Hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. I thought maybe there are specific forums that
No,
people
no,
visit.
no. That is totally fine for you to ask it. It's a very good question. There are forums, but
Yes.
oftentimes those forums get overloaded with silly stuff, and you can't
Okay.
necessarily make heads or tails of things. Right.
Yeah. All right. So it makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. Because I thought maybe you have very nice, neat forums that have very urgent questions on the top and then less urgent questions on the bottom. But of course, that isn't the case.
Oh, I thought. Well, no, it's just not that easy. And these forums are just in other countries that are not, heavily influenced by Germany,
All
and
right.
kind of that Western, Germanic culture. Um, I mean, and you're Dutch, not German, but you kind of know what I mean. Kind
I
of
do know.
that same mentality is what I meant. Sorry for that. Same mentality, that same
Uh,
similar way of life. Um,
no. Like there's a difference between Dutch and German
yes,
culture.
I know. Yes,
That is because Germans are generally stricter with the rules, while we as Dutch people have more rules. Let's say it like that. So if you would
I
go
see.
to uh, this doesn't have anything to do with it, but if you would go to a meeting in Germany, for example, you would see people driving almost like on the speed limit just to arrive 15 minutes earlier than the meeting time. That is a German person. Well, we Dutch people would generally drive around, yeah, on the around the right speed, but we would arrive 5 minutes later, for example, or on time, generally on time. And but if you look at the German rules, they have about um, nitpicky things like yeah, like I don't know.
And what no, what if there no, what if there's German listeners right now? Are you sure you want to say we let's how much complaining do you want to do about Germans
No,
being
no,
nitpickers?
like Germans have very reasonable rules, for
There we
saying.
go.
But
There we go.
I wanted to say they have very reasonable rules. But if you look at Dutch rules, we have rules for everything. Like if you, I don't know, if you buy a piece of underwear, there's some rule about it probably. It is just we have a lot of rules about like if you do something, you have a lot of fine print underneath it. and those are very nitpicky things. For example, if you move into a student house, you have a lot of rules underneath it, and we also so that is because we are not as strict as German people who are just who try to arrive on time and who want to um, be more proper. I think is that a thing?
I see. So I guess we can say that the Dutch are kind of a similar to Germans, but much more relaxed. You would say
Yes.
much more. I see. Yes, yes. But you see, I noticed something interesting. I was on an organized tour in Amsterdam, and there were several. Most of the people on the tour were British people. There were a couple Americans, me, and there were also a couple Germans. And I noticed that even though that the Dutch people were speaking Dutch, the Germans can still understand, and the Dutch can understand the German. So the languages are almost the same, the Dutch and the German language. It's almost the same language, it seems, because they understand each other
Um,
very, very, very well.
well, it is a different language. Um, let's say it like this. They are both Germanic languages, so they are from the same. Let's say you have Roman languages and
Hmm.
you have Germanic languages, and yeah, they are from the same source basically. So long ago they were similar, and there are words that are similar, but there are also words that are entirely different.
Hmm.
So that also has to do that we all learn German in high school. So generally, if you are 13, 15, you have had a few years of German classes. So in that case, you have kind of a basic understanding of the German language, I would say.
Yes, that is good. But you see, we in America, to swing back to where we left off,
Yes.
we in America, well, us blind people, we don't drive cars, so we wouldn't have to be worried about being 15 minutes early or 5 minutes late. We meet on Zoom to do these types of interviews, so we can always be on time. But as far as forums go, the forums that we have tend to be very overloaded with just comments and things like that. It's not as organized as things are in your on your side of the pond, let's say.
All right. Yes. I was thinking about using voiceover. So if you would use voiceover, um, did you did you notice somewhere in the learning that things suddenly in learning voiceover that things suddenly got harder, or that they were suddenly easier?
That's a good one, but no, not really. I viewed the level of difficulty to be parallel and very consistent throughout the whole experience.
All right. So there weren't really were there certain gestures or certain apps or certain interactions that were just really hard for someone?
Well, certain okay. So it's important when you're doing your research to focus only on one project at a time. Okay, the apps issue, it's a whole nother project about the
Yeah.
accessibility and the ease of accessibility of apps.
All right.
That's a whole nother thing. Now, what we can say is that certain apps are more accessible than others, and certain apps are written better than others. I am not I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I am an industrial engineer or computer scientist because I would be a liar. I am neither of those things. I'm, as I said, a student. I studied international relations, and my job, if I'm not on YouTube, is I'm a teacher. So you're better off talking to other engineers or computer scientists about the accessibility of apps and the way, the front end and the back end, development. That's a whole nother episode for someone who is knowledgeable about that. Um, 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 there is someone else. I got a lot of contacts for you. I have a whole list in my mind of podcasts you should reach out to and people who you need to contact via email and get more information, because there's a lot more learning that can be done for you here as far as I'm concerned. But
All right.
yeah, but that really has nothing to do with the voiceover. The voiceover is simply a software that aids in the usage of already existing systems. Accessibility, well, that has to do with, is the system that's built properly in the first place? And there it all depends. Yes.
But for in the learning of voiceover, did you notice that any parts weren't explained clearly, or that you had difficulty with learning
Yeah,
certain
that
parts?
I would say yes. I would say that the concept of voiceover is not explained well in the community, and it's a concept that people just need to learn about by doing it.
All right.
Hmm.
So is that a general awareness thing, or is that just that there need to be clearer tutorials for voiceover?
Both. Wouldn't it be
Both.
both? Right?
All
Because
right.
people can be more aware, but to be aware, you need more knowledge.
Yes, I do. I do know that there are quite a lot of tutorials on voiceover, because previous week, or no, this week, um, I spoke with someone who made a tutorial for voiceover, Jan
Do you,
Jaap.
never heard? Okay,
So, yeah,
never heard of him.
it is a Dutch person, Dutch student, who created a tutorial for voiceover, but it is in
Are
app
they blind?
format. I think they are either visually impaired or they are sighted, so they are not blind.
Okay. Well, as a matter of fact, I would love to speak with that person.
Yes,
And
but
that's very.
they did speak with a lot of blind people, and they did properly user test their app, and as far as I know, it is an app format, and it is all text based. So you could click on questions, and um,
Hmm.
it would tell you things.
I want to learn more. If this person developed a software or an app, that's something that I support. So I want to talk to them. So
All
if
right.
you can be if we can be make some contacts after this recording, that would be
Yes.
great. But yes, that's really
All right.
excellent. Good. Yeah.
So so when you were learning voiceover, did you ever feel very frustrated or very, I don't know, accomplished, happy?
I guess I felt accomplished and pleased that I was learning the software. Yes. Hmm.
Yes. So, was that just during the whole learning experience, or were there things that you thought that could be explained clearer because you were frustrated that it wasn't?
I mean, I think a lot of it could have been explained more clearly to me. Hmm.
All right.
Yes.
So, was that mainly about gestures, or mainly about how the interaction would follow on another interaction?
All of it. I think all of it could
All
have
of it.
been expressed in a clear way. Hmm.
All right. So, um, did the type of frustrations change? So, what I mean with that is, in the beginning, when I tried learning voiceover, which is a whole different experience, of course, because I didn't try to learn it such that I could use it every day, but I tried to learn it to get an understanding in it. That In the beginning, I was just very frustrated with not knowing the gestures by heart, and at some point, I was more frustrated not about the gestures themselves, but about my inability to express what I wanted in the right order. So I didn't quite know how to get to a certain app, for example, on the home screen, because I wanted to go to that app in one step, because if you are sighted, you would just click on the app in one, yeah, in one gesture. And if you are blind, you need to, well, I needed to scroll through the apps to know where the app was.
Right, right. So you're seeing that it's more labor intensive to simply use one
Yeah.
application or open up one thing. Right. Hmm.
So, did your frustrations also change like that, or was it?
No, no, because probably if I'm frustrated, I'm always frustrated.
All right. Yeah, but is there a certain thing that you're still frustrated by on voiceover that you think should change?
I don't know. For that one, you can put down, I don't know.
All right. So maybe because I do know certain things. If I really think about, for example, phone usage, there are some things that I'm still frustrated with. But it takes for me. It also takes a long time to understand what exactly it is because I've grown really used to the phone usage. So that is why I then don't really, yeah, I can't point out in one go what it is that I'm frustrated by.
Right. It's very hard to pinpoint and
Yes,
precisely tell you exactly what all of the changes need to be. And these changes take a very long time to solve. They do.
yes. So I also have questions
Sure.
about the community. Do you know a lot of people who are learning voiceover currently, or uh, yeah, just in general?
I do not. I encourage you to keep posting in the blindness groups and blindness communities, and other things will come up. But I personally am not directly. I am not directly involved in that. Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, because I've interviewed a couple of people and also a coach who is very experienced in teaching voiceover to in a non-visual way. So that coach was also blind, and they expressed that the learning, way of learning, that you had people who were yeah, who were more experienced with the way of non-visual work. So they would listen first and they would look at the icons later. And that learning voiceover is easier when you aren't distracted by the icons in case you are, if in case you want to learn voiceover non-visually. So he said that that was a factor. So how much experience you have in non-visual work, and the uh, amount of experience with technology. So that was also a factor that influenced how a person would learn voiceover. So I thought that was very interesting, and I wondered if that is if you see other factors that can influence how someone would learn voiceover.
Well, I think those factors would maintain the same. The factors that influence learning primarily are people's past experience. So yeah, that's a really important question and a really important thing to think about. Hmm.
Yeah, I have also questions about um, kind of the background things that are in place. So, for example, I do notice that if I have a lot in my planner and I need to learn something, that I am still stressed from the things in my agenda, and in that way, learning something is um, it takes more energy out of me because in my head I'm still stressed about other things and
Right.
I'm still tired from learning other things. So I wonder, is that a problem when learning voiceover,
Well,
and are there similar problems?
it would be learning is a universal process to which voiceover would be the same. It's all the same type
All
of
right.
struggle, right? So yes.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I was for yeah, to teach voiceover to someone, I had a couple of ideas. So they were all about um, about possible ideas to solve this problem, and they were mainly app based because of yeah I didn't really think about the problem that someone who had to learn voiceover might not be comfortable downloading a strange app on their phone. So that I'm just thinking about this problem, and suddenly it seems very silly to even have an app as a concept. So now I'm kind of I put myself on the spot. So yes, you I had an idea about learning voiceover with someone else. So, for example, a close family member or a close friend or someone who was knowledge who also wanted to learn voiceover online. And if you have different skill levels, that doesn't really matter because in that case, you can explain certain things to the person who wants to learn them. And that is also very rewarding, I think. And I thought it might be handy to learn voiceover in teams of 2 or 3, and you could advise each other on certain problems you encounter, and also ask for help easier. So that's one of the ideas I had, and of course this would either require a forum or an app or some kind of communication. But yeah, that was one of the ideas, and
Hmm.
another idea I had was, very based. That idea is very based on an interview I had with uh, one gentleman. He said that um, the app from NS, and yeah, that is the Holland Railway. So that's the Nederlandse Spoorwegen, and the abbreviation is NS. So the railway app was very easy to use because you could input a start point and a destination, and then it would give you a timeline of different stations and where you needed to go to another train. And I felt it was a very suitable metaphor for learning voiceover on your phone because you would have a goal, which is the endpoint, and a starting point, which is the home screen. And then such an app, you would have to input the endpoint and would tell you which in between stops there are. And then it would give you points where you would need to switch to the next part of the tutorial, which is I thought that would be handy. But now that I have spoken with you, I do realize that people who are learning voiceover, they don't really always have a destination in mind when they are trying it out. So that
Right. Right.
might not be a very good idea. And also, a certain app about, um, yeah, no, that isn't a good idea entirely, I think. It is, you would, for example, have an overlay over the phone, and then you could try certain things in that overlay, and it would be in the app. But now that I think about it, it isn't quite possible because if you would have voiceover and you would use an overlay on it, voiceover is an overlay over all the apps on your phone. So what would happen is that your input, if you certain inputs would go to voiceover first and not be registered in your app um, as inputs. It would register in your app as, oh, you wanted to go to the next app, or you wanted to go to to the home screen, and it wouldn't register as in the app as you want to do a certain you want to learn a certain gesture in this app. So this app will show you another part of the tutorial because of that. So your phone would just say, oh, you want to go to the home screen. All right, home screen. and then your app would be closed and on the side. So that is not very handy either. So yes, um, those were a few of the ideas I have, and of course I could also make something physical, but that is always a risk now because if you make something physical, people will have to order it, and then yes, it wouldn't be free. So that is one of the problems. And I think the power of using a smartphone is that everything is free. So, well, not everything, most of the things. So, information, entertainment, um, yeah. So those are mainly my ideas, and um, I could also explain about my findings, but that would take quite long. So do you still have some questions? Because I'm done with my questions of the interview.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, that was really you did really well with that. I think in this case, I think I want you to be able to know that you are always welcome on Aaron's opinion. And I think at this point, I think this was a lot of material in this video. I think this is used as I mean, all of my videos are educational on my channel, but this one in particular was really, really good. I mean,
Really?
do you have any final questions for me?
Um, well, I'm done with the interview questions, but I do have yeah, just other questions for you.
Sure.
So those aren't
Please,
really
please.
part of.
Well, that is totally fine. Please ask all of your questions.
Yeah. So do you just when do you use your phone in daily life? Just how everyone uses their phone? Because
Yeah.
uh, I've always wondered about that.
How
Yeah.
everyone uses their phone, whether you're blind or sighted, everybody is on a phone.
Yeah. It's just it's just for everything. Maybe not for watching detailed movies or something. Maybe that not. Or
Right.
but for most other things you do. Oh, that's interesting. So it would also I don't know, but that seems very hard because you need to learn a lot of apps. You need to learn a lot of.
Well, one of the things is that what we do is most of the time either I'm on Netflix or I'm on YouTube or I'm listening to a podcast. So that's most of my consumption in the ecosystem would be either teaching, creating a podcast, or listening to a podcast. And that's
All right.
how most of my time is used. Hmm.
Yes. Oh, that is very interesting because I of course I've spoken to others, but they were all middle aged, let's say it like that. So they were all
Yeah. Most of
50s,
the
60s.
audience and most of the people you're talking to are 45 years old and over. So
Yes.
yeah, I was looking at that. The software show. I know who my audience is. They are. So I'm 29. And
Yes.
how old are you?
I'm 21.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I
yeah.
thought the university. I thought you were younger, but then you could be my age and be doing university work later on. But I had a feeling, and that is fine. So know that most of the people you're speaking to are people who are older than us, are people who are in their mid 40s. Hmm.
True. So
Yeah.
they were all talking about reading ebooks, looking up the weather, that kind of thing. But of course, younger people are on YouTube all the time, so and on Netflix. That makes so much sense.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I think my curiosity is sated. Yeah, I guess that those were my questions. Do you still have other things other topics you wanted to discuss?
I think that's good for today. I think you really rose to the occasion, and you made a really you made helped our channel to make a really great video, and a really great recording that you're going to be able to use forever now as knowledge for your future projects and products that you produce. All right. Here, I tell you what. Let me end this episode, and don't hang up. I still have a couple more things I want to say off the air,
Yes.
but don't hang up for a minute. Hold on. So anyway, guys, you've been listening to Aaron's Opinion. Very educational episode today. That was voiceover. Let's call it voiceover. I have questions for you. I'll call the title something about voiceover to help you find it again. All right. We were speaking with someone, Rong-rong from Netherlands, or one of our, if not the first, certainly one of the first Dutch guests on Aaron's Opinion. I hope we will have many more people from the Netherlands, and I hope that you know that you are always welcome to continue to record with me anytime you like. And I hope that you get into podcasting too, because it's a great hobby. All right. So as I have a slogan here at Aaron's Opinion, and it's a slogan that really helps people. And the slogan is help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow.